All right, we're going with another episode today. This is going to be probably one of my favorite people to have on, one of the best people. But first, I want to take a minute to thank the sponsors and everybody who participates. I want to give a big shout out to a good mutual company of mine and the guests, Vortex Optics. Big thank you to Vortex Optics. Big thank you to Kenzies. Big thank you to everybody out there that supports the show. Head over to www.johnbartoloshow.com, and I appreciate everybody who participates. I also want to take a minute to give special thanks to Savage Cerakote, SC Arms down in New Jersey. He's an FFL. He's out there grinding. He's out there delivering ammo to people's door. He's helping everybody out. So go check him out in New Jersey. He's Savage Cerakote on Instagram. Big thank you to him. So now to the guest. This is a special, really special guest. I always like to have the competitive shooters on because I have such respect for what they do and how they push the sport. And I've said it, 100 times. If this was baseball, all these shooters would be multimillionaires. It goes without saying. I have so much respect for this one. There's probably two young shooters I have the absolute most respect for, and this is one of them that I've gotten to know through the years. The one and only Cheyenne Dalton. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. Thanks for having me.
I've got to see, I've been fortunate and blessed. There's a couple pro shooters out there. I got a chance to meet Dakota Overland recently and had her on the show. But really, you and Colby and some of and of course Trenton, I've got to know you guys through the years and almost see you guys grow up. It's been 10 years I've been in the business, so I've gotten to see that. And honestly, I'm honored because I look at you, Cheyenne, as like a prodigy in all the things that you do. And I know it's tough to take compliments like that, but it feels good. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't understand about you is that you're so diverse in all the different things you do. How did you get to this point in life? Because you're starting to come into your own now. Like, what was the journey? What got you here?
So I've grown up on a farm my whole life. I've been shooting, plinking and hunting and stuff forever. But I started shooting competitively when I was 12. My mom had actually gone to go and get her concealed carry license. And so the guy who's teaching it, his daughter was there, and he started talking to my mom, asking if she might have any kids who would be interested in competitive shooting. And so I went up to their house and I took a couple lessons, and then I went to my first match. It was, I think it was in 2013. It was the Iowa State Rimfire Championship, and I won high limited lady. So my shooting career, it's just kind of gone from there. I started shooting Rimfire Challenge at first, and then I got into USPSA, and now I'm more in the 3-gun side of things. So that's what most people know me for, kind of, is my shooting. But I also have a bluegrass band. I started playing classical violin when I was 4 years old. And then when I was about 9 or 10, I decided, I wanted to try something different. Everyone that played classical seemed so serious, and they never smiled. And to me, music is something that is fun, and it should be like seen visibly, like on your face, that you're having a good time and you're enjoying what you're doing. So I started playing fiddle music and playing in fiddle contests across the U.S. And then now, a little bit after that, I started my bluegrass band. It's called That Dalton Gang.
It's crazy. You have your hand in so many different things, and for someone, and when I say all this stuff, guys, I mean it with the most respect, for a young lady, somebody out there who's accomplishing so much and doing so many different things. Does the term prodigy ever come up? Do you ever hear that?
No, not that much, actually, which is fine. To me, everything that I do, it's just, this is who I am. This is my life. Like, nothing seems out of the normal to me.
But that you don't see that kind of work ethic in most people. I mean, let's be honest here, Cheyenne. Most people, they sit at home like I sit at home, I'll eat a bag of pretzels and fall asleep on the couch. Like, they don't have their hand in this many things and the stuff that you have going on. You're always hustling and always working and always putting it together. You're ahead of the curve. I mean, at the end of the day, right, we're all playing second to the kid on YouTube who opens the presents who's worth like, $100 million. You know what I mean? So I say all this, you're ahead of the curve, though. You really have built out an audience. You acknowledge that. I mean, that you've built out these things that really complement your brand and the things you're trying to do. So you have to know, like, you're ahead of it, right?
Yeah, I do know. I've worked hard for everything that I have, and But I've also been really blessed. I have so many great people that have helped me along the way, and I've had great mentors like Julie Golub. She has helped me so much,
amazing,
and
yeah.
I respect her. She is definitely my idol, like in the shooting world. She's a mom. She was in the military. She has kids. Like she just does everything, and it's so cool to watch her.
You know, and you've exceeded or excelled the expectations of probably so many people around you in terms of the things that you've done. Do you ever take a step back and look at the body of work of all the things, building because building the pages is no joke either. I mean, we both know that on the media side, building that stuff up is not easy, let alone being in bands, being, out shooting in matches, putting media together. It's not, we all, I mean, I like to think we're all guilty of kind of making it look easy, right? But it's not.
Right. No, I mean, it takes a lot of planning and it takes a lot of time behind the scenes. You have
Absolutely.
to get ready. You have to go out and create the content, and you have to set aside days to do that. And you have to create certain content for certain sponsors, and then think about what you want to post personally. And no, it definitely takes a lot of time and work.
Yeah, it's not easy. And the point I'm trying to get across to a lot of people is what you've done and what you've managed to do the last couple of years really sets you up for your steps towards being, even at the next level ahead of everybody else. If not, you look at somebody like Julie. Julie laid the groundwork long before many other women did by winning matches and doing what hadn't been done. But a lot of those people, Julie, Max, they struggled with the social media side in the beginning. Julie now is obviously, crushing it in all spaces.
Yeah.
But it takes them some time. To some of the younger crowd, especially the ones younger than me, it came natural. It came easier. They were able to hit it a lot harder. You just crushed it in all those different spaces. And do you feel like you're going to be coming into your own as you kind of step into the next few years, which will be, super exciting and probably open a lot of doors for you?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the future. I mean, I'm at the time of my life where I'm in school right now. I'm trying to graduate, trying to get a job. And so I'm kind of headed into a new stage in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what things I can accomplish now.
I mean, you have to believe that it's in many ways, and I know I think like this. And when I look at you, you're one of the fewer younger shooters that you have to believe it could be bigger than the shooting industry, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't just keep myself focused in this one little box of 3 guns, or competitive shooting. Right. I know there's so much more out there. Even the hunting industry, so much bigger than just the competitive shooting industry. And then there's things way bigger than the gun industry, obviously. So I'm always, looking for other ways that I can take my brand in and not just be this one specific thing.
Yeah, you have to be thinking like that because you have what it takes. You have the ability. You're kind of multifaceted like that, and not everybody has that. Now, when you go out and you train for these matches and you're figuring out what you want to do and how you map out your year, are you kind of on your own now, or is Dad's involved? How involved is the family now still? Are you kind of are they you're on your own, go figure it out now, Have they clipped the wings, or are you still, have them deeply involved in your strategy and what you're planning and what you're doing?
No, I'm definitely more on my own now. I go through, because I have my own schedule and things that I have to do for myself. So I go through, at the beginning of the year or the end of the previous year and look at all the matches for the next year and see which ones I can attend. And, I sign up for them, all that stuff. My dad still helps me create content most of the time, helps me edit videos and stuff. But other than that, no, I'm getting to be more on my own.
Yeah, it's tough when you kind of have to start to figure it out for yourself, and you start to form your circle. What's really going to be your circle in business, and who's going to advise you and who's going to help you, and that starts to go beyond family. You start to figure out who you're going to pick up the phone and call. And I go through that. I live like that. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that you have to. You'll have some people that you have to weed out, and I always say to get ahead, you're going to leave people behind, and I'm sure you've already experienced some of that, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not easy. And when you're figuring out who, like, just because of where you're at and the things you're trying to do, you have to have friends that are moving at the same pace of you and the things that you're doing. And you probably have a hard time finding that, I imagine.
Right. So my whole life, I used to go to a private Christian school, and then for the rest of from about sixth grade until through high school, I was homeschooled. And I have never really had friends my own age. I've always had adult friends, and it used to really bother me when I was little because I didn't have anybody to go hang out with. I saw all these kids going places and doing fun things together, but I didn't have that, and it bothered me then. But now I understand that it's just because they didn't get me. They didn't understand what I was about. I was doing. I don't know. This probably I don't mean it this way, but I was doing, I guess, bigger things.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe like it was just bigger than they could comprehend. And like I played music. What kid plays music? What kid's in a band? That's weird. I shot guns. That's weird. I didn't do the typical kid things. I didn't go to public school, so I didn't play sports like most kids do. I didn't do things like that. I didn't do like competitive cheer or competitive dance or things like that. So now I get it. But yeah, back then it did bother me. I still don't like have close friends, but that's okay with me because I have a lot of things to focus on.
It's interesting hearing you say that because I don't, this is going to sound bad when I say it. I don't think you're missing anything, right? If I can say that. I don't
think so either.
Yeah. I had a bit of a hybrid, I didn't come into my own till probably into college and after that a little bit. It's so, I understand it's when you work hard and you put your head down and you do your thing, it's almost like you let everybody talk around you. You kind of hear it, but you don't really hear it if your head's down and you're really doing your thing. And right. I always tell people your time will come, like when people say, I guess you don't understand this term till you understand it. When people start to say like, it's your time now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being at the age and stage of the game that I'm at, being where I am, I understand that term better than most. Like one of the reasons I did the podcast is for as long as you've known me, I like to talk. I'm a talker. I'm a conversationalist. So I've been that way forever. And this is a good medium for me, to get on the phone and have a conversation with people. And, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy doing it. And when you do stuff that you enjoy, it might not fit the narrative that you're in when you're in high school or grammar school, junior high, but you'll come into your own. And I think you as a young woman out there, I think you're coming into your own space now. And I think honestly, you're bigger than the gun industry. I think you'll outgrow that because I think whether it's with the band or different opportunities that come up, one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten in life was to get ahead, you're going to leave people behind. And that's very cold thing to say sometimes. I guess people could interpret it as cold, but you also have to be ready to let them go. And sometimes you have to put things down. If you don't put them down, then you don't see the next opportunity and the next opportunity. And I think what you've done is a really good job of seeing those opportunities as they've popped up, and you've built something that's really special. And
thank you.
Yeah, and that's important. And as you outgrow things and you outgrow brands, and sometimes with jobs, you just outgrow them. You know what I mean? And it's just like, there's nothing that needs to be said. It's like when you're in a relationship, sometimes you just outgrow the relationship, and it's like you have to, whether that's a friendship or whatever, and that happens, and you have to sometimes fall on your own and figure it out and pick up the pieces and go to the next thing. And for you, I think, this might be a couple year run where you really dominate this, but I could see music or movies or whatever else it is that you want to get your hand in. I genuinely mean that. Do you feel it could go there?
You. So many crazy things have happened just since I've been doing social media, and so many insane opportunities have come up. I really don't know what could be next. I mean, things come up all the time, and I'm like, wow, that's a cool opportunity. I want to do social media as long as I can, as long as people, want to follow me and see what my life is about. So I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go next, but I know it'll something will happen. It'll come up soon enough.
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, I think you're at the point where you've outgrown the high school, college. You know what I mean? Like, you're coming into the space where you should be, like, as an adult woman running around. You've built it. Now you can make a living on it. You know what I'm saying? You can transition to that. Right. It's going to be now what you do from here, because it's kind of like, I'll give you an example. I graduated high school. I was probably 225 pounds. I was way bigger than my body. When I got to college and played sports, I fit in with that. You know what I mean? That size group. I was the fat kid in high school, but then I was normal size. So you're growing into yourself now, and it's going to be what the next steps are for you, and where it goes from here, and how you parlay this, and how you swing it. But I think it goes beyond the gun industry, and I think too many people think small. And I've been accused so many times of, when I would bring in the fitness element, when I would bring in energy drinks, I would bring in all these different things. Everybody's like, "What are you doing? That's not like hardcore gun industry." I'm like, "Are you people stupid?" Like, these are the mainstream brands and companies we need to bring into this industry. And it's that out of the box thinking that you have to have, because you can't keep running around doing the same thing with the same 5 companies. You have to grow beyond that, and you have to start to look for different spheres of influence, because we all top out. And you see so many talented people, they're topped out because they're not thinking beyond. And I've always seen you kind of think beyond, in so many different capacities. And I think that that's freaking awesome. And
thank you.
I wish more people would do it. Now, do you feel like a part of you wants to settle down at any point, in terms of just like getting a regular job and having a regular life?
I mean, there's a part of me that kind of wants to, but also I know, like, I've worked so hard for so long. I am actually going to cosmetology school right now. Obviously I posted on my social media. I had gone to a traditional 4-year college last fall for this semester. And you know what? Things just didn't work out. That wasn't for me. I realized I didn't even know what I wanted to study, and I didn't want to waste 4 years of my life just being there. And while I was there, I couldn't create social media content. I couldn't shoot matches. I couldn't do what I do. So I decided at Christmas break, I wasn't going to go back, and I started cosmetology school in February, and I absolutely love it. One thing that is super handy about this to me is, once I graduate, I can create my own schedule. I can work when I need to, or I don't have to, if I'm busy. So I think that'll be good for me, because once I have my license, then I'll always have it. And if I'm not busy with something, then I can keep working. Like, I feel like I'll always have a way to make income. But I don't know, I kind of want to travel and just, like, be adventurous, do all the things there are to do in life. But, yeah,
that freedom is way understated. Like, I think, I think a lot of people that go to, that feel that push to go to college, I think your generation is going to be the generation that starts to break a lot of that mold.
Yep.
When people ask me my thoughts on that, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, people ask me how I got here. I'm like, I don't know. I went to college because a piece of paper was put in front of me and said, here, go to school. And it didn't really cost me anything. So I went to school. And then, when I was done with school, I said, what am I going to do now? And I remember, going to the academy, because I was like, I had that, I grew up still in that phase where my mother was like, you need to get a city job. You know what I mean? You need to go do this. So I kind of was in the in-between where college was still a thing, but I knew then that I said, this is going to slowly die down. I don't regret it, but at the same time, I mean, I couldn't tell you, one thing I did when I was there. I mean, I get, that sounds bad, I guess. I've never said that out loud, but I couldn't tell you, I mean, and then I went to Boston University after, and I did my CFP there, and I was working in finance at the time, and I couldn't, I mean, to me, I could have taken it or left it. It was people ask me all the time, I say it's a lifestyle choice, And
yeah. I'm glad I went to school, like I went to college for that semester, but it wasn't for me.
I think everybody should go. I'm in that boat.
Yeah.
I think everybody should go. I think what it should be done, Cheyenne, is I think it should be a 2-year degree. I think it should be that whole, like, you need a 4-year degree and Wizards and
There's
Warriors.
A lot of wasted time.
It's a lot of wasted time. I think it could be done in 2 years and everybody can learn what's necessary. And then, because college teaches you how to think and how to interact with people, but you're way ahead of that. You know, you've been interacting with adults for years.
Right. I think that's why I'm enjoying, like, this cosmetology school so much. It's kind of like, in a way, a trade school, and I'll graduate in less than a year and go straight to work. Like, they don't teach you stuff that's not necessary. They just teach you what you need to know, and then you can kind of, like, be on your way and make of it what you will. So.
Be entrepreneurial and create your own business and grow it. Now, along the way, you've been so fortunate to, you know, you brought up traveling and get to go to these shows and participate in all these different things. And was there ever like a moment when you met someone or got to interact with someone that you just, you were like, wow, I can't believe like this is my life. Was there ever like that moment?
Really every time I go to like SHOT Show or NRA or something like that, and like a little girl comes up to the booth and, you know, her dad says something to me like, she didn't know what to think about shooting, but I found your page and we watched your videos and we follow you and she started shooting because of you. Like, that really means so much to me. And the same thing for like, if a woman comes up or like a husband comes up with his wife and she started shooting because she saw my page and was like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. That's kind of what I'm all about. Like, I just want to show other people that, like, you can do this too. This isn't something that, like, only a certain kind of person can do. This is for everyone. And it's important to me that women and young girls get into shooting because the young girls are going to grow up to be the moms and they have a lot to say with what goes on in the household. And if they're not okay with shooting, then most likely the whole household, you know, they're not going to have guns. They're not going to know gun safety. They're not going to know about that stuff. So it's important to me for women to be involved in guns in some way.
Are you ever like, I don't deserve this, or like you flattered when, like you said, the young ones come up and you get these people there? I don't want to use the term like fans. You know what I mean? Are you ever like, what the hell's going on? Like, what does it come to?
No, I definitely. That's kind of my personality, though. Like, I don't deserve this. I'm definitely a people pleaser, which I know I need to stop. But that's just who I am. Like, I want everyone to be happy. I want to do my best, and I don't feel I deserve this. There are people that work so much harder than me, and they don't have as much as I do. And so I do feel really blessed to be in the place that I am.
I was talking about that a little bit with Sean Burrows. You know, for the most part, that's, you know, a lot of that there's that struggle between the competitors and the people who are good at social media. And you've been able to marry the two. You know, we see the same thing in competitive fitness world. You know, the guys who compete don't get the love some of the other people do.
Right.
Do you feel like, you know, everybody says the same thing. At the end of the day, it's on you as a person to market yourself. Do you ever feel like, you know, some people, they just are who they are. They're not going to achieve that level of social media stardom, and you feel like they're cheated, or like, where do you stand on that? You know, do you feel like it's on them and like, fuck it, you know, they have to figure it out?
I mean, I guess I've never really thought about it like that. I'm not the best shooter. I'm not. I don't win 3-gun that much. I do try my best. But you know what? My life is busy and I don't get to practice as much as I should. I know I could be better if I do practice, but I don't get to. So I accept that. But I do work really hard on my social media. Other people, they work harder on the shooting aspect, but they don't do anything for social media. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it really is just on yourself. You know, if you want to have lots of followers or if you want to win every match, it's kind of your choice.
Right. It's one of those things. It's hard to marry both. It's hard to do both. You've managed to do it. Women have a bit of a strategic advantage, and that's another topic, but they, in so many ways, in my opinion, but a lot of it has to do with the work ethic too. You have to put the time in and do the photo shoots. Like I know like Max has endless amounts of content. He just wins so much stuff. He doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, and there always is that exception to the rule. And there's always that, that situation. Now, social media is a tough thing, and choosing brands to work with and companies to work with. I'm sure you get your share of people that come up to you and ask you advice. They're like, Cheyenne, I want to get in approaching you. How did you get to this point? Or, ooh, you have so many sponsors, or whatever the conversation is. What guidelines do you give them? What do you usually say in giving them advice to get to a certain level? At least, I mean, not to your level, but to get to a certain, just to get in the door.
Right. So for me, my personal story with sponsors, I never asked anyone to sponsor me. I never went up to them. I never emailed them, kind of like annoying them. Some people, I feel like they annoy them so much that the company's finally like, okay, here, take this stuff in a way, like kind of just to get them to stop. For me, I really tried to never push myself on anybody. And all the sponsors that I've ever had have come to me. So I don't know, like as far as advice goes, I guess to me, I would just say kind of work on building your own brand. And then if a company likes that, they're going to see it and approach you.
I've heard advice from all different people, and I like that a lot. I would say this, the only caveat I would add to it is if you're going to take that approach, you have to be proactive, at least like you are, where you have a website, you have stuff dialed in, because what companies look for is, are you organized? That's the number one thing. If they're going to put their time, effort, energy, and potentially money, which is a whole nother story behind you, they're going to look for somebody that's organized. Like, do you have your act together? Is your media clean and professionally done? Are you developing yourself as a brand, and are you evolving? I know now it's changing where just having Instagram isn't enough. It's just not enough. You have to have other areas. At the very least, you should have Instagram, a website, YouTube. Those are kind of the three. At the very max, you should have all three of those, maybe potentially a podcast, even if it's a 15-minute one that you do, maybe a blog. A blog's another thing. And if you don't like podcasting, you got to have one or the other. You have to have some different things. I think, Cheyenne, too many people now, because of how it was when you got started, and kind of when I got started in the Facebook days, so it was different, but I'm showing my age, but I think too many people are trying to go up to Boots now, and they're trying to be like, hey, I got 20,000 followers. Like, I want, a free muzzle brake. Like, you know what I mean? And those days are over. That's what I try to tell people. I'm like, that's over. That's not going to happen, because there's too many people out there like you. Why are you different? That's what I feel. Like,
they want something, like they want something unique about you, because like you could just be like another guy shooting a gun, but is there something? Yeah,
and it's just not enough. Yeah, what's your differentiator, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. So you have to have a differentiator. You have to, have something different. Like when I started this show, I have political people on. I have everybody's pro 2A, everybody's pro defense. I have MMA fighters, because I didn't want to do just another gun podcast. Because if I see another podcast out there that's like, hey, go buy a Glock 19, like I'm done. Like I'm going to rip my hair out. There's too many of those. Not that they're bad. I'm not judging any of them, but there's a million of them. And I wanted to do something different that transcended the industry and exposed a lot of us to different people. And I feel like that's something that was missing. There's a lot of good little podcasts out there, and I listen to the listenership, and there's just not a big listenership for a lot of them. And that's a byproduct of, I think they're very limited, because they make them all about the gun. And you're not all about the gun. You're multifaceted. You have so many other things. So my advice I usually give people is be you, but try to be you in spaces where people aren't. And that's one thing I always try to do, is zig when everybody's zagging. Do something different. Be different. Blogging's coming back, and it's huge. Blogging was dying for a while. Now blogging is like back, and it's had a resurgence, and there's something to be said about that. Whether you're doing online reviews, and those are fine too. Something, you have to have something. And I've always said the same thing to people when they ask me advice on media. When you start out, and you remember the days when you started, I always say this: when you're bad, play fast. When you're worse, play faster. You don't have to do an hour. You don't have to do 2 hours. You don't have to do a 45-minute YouTube video. If you're bad, do a 15-minute one. If you're bad, do 2 minutes. I mean, you remember the first time you did a video, 2 minutes feels like an hour.
Yeah, for sure.
So I always tell people that when you're bad, play fast. And
kind of just stick with what you can handle. Like, don't try to overexert yourself right from the beginning.
Yeah, it's like whenever anyone asks me about training, whether it's in the gym, on the range, I'm like, train. If 3 days a week is enough for you, and that's all you can do, your bandwidth, your mental bandwidth, just do 3. If you start out trying to go, if you've never trained, whether it's in the gym or on the range, and you try to do Monday through Friday, you're going to fail. You're going to fail.
Yeah.
Start out once a week, twice a week. It's like, if your cardio is bad, don't try to run a marathon today. You're not going to win.
Yep, absolutely.
You're not going to even finish. So, I think it's about pacing, and it's about setting yourself up for success. And when people reach out to you and they try to get that advice, do you ever say to them, how bad do you really want it? Because you understand how hard the work, you know what I'm saying? Like, you understand how hard the work is. Do you ever peel into those layers if you're kind of mentoring someone or having that conversation? Like, how bad do you really want it?
I personally have never really done that. I guess I do know the hard work behind it. And for most people, they're just not going to put in the work.
Yeah.
So, I'll give them advice about things they can do, but maybe there's been a handful of people that have ever stuck with it and kept going. But the other people, they might shoot for a year, and then I don't see that
they fade.
Yeah.
Now, has there ever been anyone in your journey of going to the shows, like when you first got started, that you met or crossed paths with, and you're just like, they're kind of like, you mentioned Julie, anyone else that's like a mentor to you or has come along in your circle that's been super influential that you kind of look at and you're just, they're doing great work and you love what they're doing, what they're about?
I love Travis Tomasi. He doesn't do much on social media, but he is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
He's a legend.
He is. He's an amazing shooter, obviously, but to me, how great of a shooter you are doesn't matter that much. To me, what matters is, are you actually a good person? And he really is. He is one of the kindest people I've ever met. He's been supportive. He's, given me encouragement when I needed it. So I think he's one maybe people his name might not be the first on their list because he's not very active on social media, but he's a great guy.
He's one of the old timers out there in terms of there's certain guys like Jerry Michalik is a rare one. And Jerry, he's managed to harness social media and other things. I mean, he also has one of the most outspoken, eccentric daughters. You know what I mean? Lena's just one of those people. She's very outgoing. So he has the influence around him and understands the importance of it. And Jerry and I talked about that. He gets it. Some guys, they're at a point in their career where they're just like, I am where I am. And I don't care, And Travis be one of those guys. Now, it's okay. Some people are at that point where they just don't want to put those layers on top of them and deal with it. But is there anyone outside of shooting that you look at and you're kind of like, maybe they're not associated with the sport and you're like, geez, I love their vibe. I love what they're doing.
Oh, I don't know. Like, just off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but I don't know. I found some amazing people. I think social media and Instagram is kind of my main thing. You can find just some really inspiring pages and really supportive people out there because of the internet, and you wouldn't have known about them otherwise. And I think that, sometimes I feel like, oh, I wish I could just delete all my social media because sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes I just don't want to do it anymore. But then, I look on there and I see all these other people that are working, super hard to create the best content that they can, and it kind of re-inspires me and wants me to keeps me wanting to keep pushing and doing the best that I can.
Now, social media has created a love-hate with our industry in so many ways. It's one of those things. There are things we all kind of hate about the industry. It's become such a you-know-what measuring contest, right? And,
yep.
We've all talked about this. Sean and I talked about it at length. There's so many people that just they have to talk shit. They can't help themselves.
I know.
We would love to see that go away. There's so many people that just have something to say. No one can put the blinders on sometimes and just do their thing. Why do you think that's so systemic in the gun industry and it's so bad in our industry? What do you think? As a young person, I ask you because I feel like you maybe know the pulse better than me. I just think by and large, most people are douchebags. It's rare that you find a good person. I wonder, I wonder what you think it is.
I agree with you. I think people mainly are just jealous. Like, oh, you have more followers than me. Oh, I hate you. And I think that's such a stupid way to think. I know that, a lot of people, I don't know. They find it annoying that I have more followers than them because, like, they may be a better shooter than me. But they're like, well, then why don't I have that many followers?
You didn't work for it.
Right. But I don't know. Social media is just a very interesting thing. But you're right. In the gun industry, there is, like, something about it. It's just people hate you if you have more followers than them or if you get cool gear or whatever it may be. That's an interesting observation.
Yeah, well, Heath Evans, former NFL player I had on the show, he made a good point. He said people see you get the free meals or a free t-shirt,
right,
and they think that you just got that because of the following. They don't see the years of hard work, the years of taking the hits, that wasn't free, that you were laying the groundwork 5-10 years ago for that. And he's right. He made me kind of think about it and take a step back. And he's absolutely right. People don't get that nothing comes quick anymore. In social media in the early days, like I said, you could have 10, 20,000 followers, go up to a booth, and you could probably get a deal, some kind of deal.
Right.
Now, those days are over. So the crowd has gotten thicker. And what I've seen just in the firearms industry, because of the types of personalities you have in it, whether it's the military influence, whether it's the law enforcement influence, whether it's the social media people influence, whether it's the competitive shooters, you have all these people and it's like a jockeying for position thing. And everybody kind of jockeys for a situation. I've never been in an industry where so many people I've never met. I've maybe had one conversation with them, maybe, and that's a stretch, that don't like me. I'm like, it's funny because I had Mickey on and Carry Trainer, and Mickey and I were talking, and there was someone he brought up, and he's like, yeah, I can't stand you or whatever. And I'm like, Mickey, I've never met him. He goes, doesn't surprise me. He's an asshole. But that's how Mickey is, if you know Mickey. But, we were talking, and, he said, he goes, it's funny how this industry is. You can never meet someone, never have a conversation like we're having right now for an hour, never get into that. And you just, they don't like you. And you almost want to be like, I've never met you.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. I understand where you're coming from for sure.
Yeah. And I've never talked to them, or they have something negative to say. And I'm like, can't you just put the blinders on and do you worry about you? I don't, people call me and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know that person, or I've never talked to them. And there's a couple people that I just literally say, I'm like, to this day, I've never talked to that person. I'm like, I don't know them. They don't know me. But I have a much brasher personality than you. So I get it. Unless you get to know me, you really don't understand me. And that's something that I've explained to people all the time. But somebody like you, it's crazy because you have to deal with the hate from not just afar, but also maybe potentially in the circles that you develop as time goes on.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. No, people hate me. I know it. It's fine. It really doesn't bother me because I know that I'm doing my own thing and I'm happy with myself. So that's what matters.
That's all that matters. Now, do you encounter people you feel like you look at from afar and they're following your same blueprint?
Absolutely. A couple years ago, I don't see it so much now, but I remember I would post something, and then there'd be a few other people who would post something so similar. Like, even the caption was almost the same thing, maybe worded a little differently, but I thought it was kind of funny. And like, for a while I was like, oh, I wish they stopped copying me. But then I realized, oh wait, they're doing that because they see that it's working for me. And so, like, I was kind of, starting new things, and they were wanting to, I guess, in a way, be like me, do the things that I was doing. So, I mean, yeah, for sure, people have copied me, I guess, I think, in the past.
Imitation becomes the biggest form of flattery, right?
Yep.
Now, what do you think of the meme pages?
Wow. I'm a fan of memes. I love them. They crack me up. Yeah, I think they're great. Do you think maybe if a person was like on the outside, like not so much on the inside track and like in the know of everything that goes on in the shooting industry, and they like stumbled across those pages, that might be kind of a negative thing? Like, they might see those memes and be like, oh, I wonder what that's about. That can't be good. But like, to me, it's funny, but I guess from like maybe a more professional business standpoint, that's kind of not a good thing.
I just have a theory that I think everybody on social media should have to use their own name. I think that would change everything.
Yeah. Well, people will post and say all kinds of things if their real name is not out
you
there.
And I both know there's plenty of people that are actually in the industry that hide behind those pages, and I find that so funny. I mean, I take them with a grain of salt, and like you, I've always taken the imitation as a form of flattery. There's some great ones out there. I mean, I get a big kick out of Rad's Arms because he's a Boston guy, and so am I. So I get a kick out of him. I love what some of the guys are doing, and they're good-hearted people. They're just poking fun in a light way. Right. They're never like targeting anybody. But I think that there's a good amount of, there's some of them that, I mean, when they start to dip into sometimes people's personal lives.
Yeah, I think that's too far.
That's when I think it goes a little awry. And, I think if you're going to do that and you're going to maintain your autonomy, I think that's where it gets a little like you lose me. I'm kind of like, I don't know that that's the right thing, Some of them are funny. I get a kick out of them. They're hilarious. And I know you follow a lot of them. And, they are what they are. But I think by and large that everybody should have to have published their name underneath them. And that would that would make life so much funnier. And it's only because you and I both know there's so many people that contribute to them across the industry. And I'm like, just say it to someone's face. Just say it to their face.
Right.
And they won't. But, I think at the end of the day, that's in every industry. It's not just in the firearms or defense industry. I think that's across the board. I think, every industry has that. But I think for whatever reason in ours, there's that you have what I want and I want to take it from you.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what causes some people to do some insanely irrational stuff and to cause a little bit of that, that angst, you know what I mean? Between people. And I wish that would go away, but time will tell. I think, over time as social media keeps diversifying, and it will, and as people are forced to diversify, which they are, because I know you're probably already seeing it, SHOT Show, people want more. And, you look at things like YouTube and you look at other spaces. Like I said, that I think Instagram, at least as far as the firearms business goes, is a little on the decline in terms of where people are putting their time, effort, and energy. Because I think you just have to have it in other areas. What areas are you looking at right now? Is it TikTok?
Actually, I'm running one of my sponsors' TikToks right now. I'm working on kind of building that up. YouTube, personally, I have always needed to work harder on that. But when I first started shooting competitively, the thing to do was to make a Facebook page. And so I had a Facebook page and grew that, but then it slowly moved to Instagram. So I made an Instagram. But yeah, Instagram is definitely declining. I am losing followers every day. I think it's more Instagram, like the company itself. They're maybe shutting pages down a little bit because I'm doing nothing different, but I'm losing followers. So I need to focus on definitely more YouTube, The podcast world is interesting to me. I don't know if I would be able to pull it off, but I don't know. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, I think for you, if it was, from what I know of you through the years, I think if you were doing, I think you do really well with, it's all about scale. So I do a million of these a week, but I can talk the paint off the walls. I think for you, it might be something where it's 3 times a month, like episodic, almost like.
Right. It'd be smaller. Yeah.
20 minutes, just something to have it. And if people tune in and participate, it's just another thing for you.
Yeah.
It's not something you need to like, I was saying this to Mike the Cop. He's got a big following on YouTube and he has a big following on Instagram. And, I said to Mike the Cop, I said, you don't need to knock it out of the park with this one. It just has to, and that's maybe what some spaces are for you when you're analyzing and looking at them and figuring out where they are, but that doesn't mean it can't be your space. I think you could crush it on YouTube. I think YouTube would be a space that would make a lot of sense for you to do some stuff, because I think people would want to hear your thoughts on, even if it's gear and just, like I look at like Larry Vickers, like he's starting to do movie reviews, you know what I mean? And it's interesting. Like it's kind of interesting. Like I listened to some of his thoughts on some of the stuff and I'm like, that's kind of cool, whatever.
Right.
Like, it's just finding that little niche. And I think it's about, for you now, expanding to something that might be a little outside the box, outside the industry. And that might even be on a podcast. It might be something like that. It might be something where it's just like, your thought, it might have nothing to do with the gun industry. It just might be your thoughts of the day or what you see out there or what you think about current events and talk about that. That could be something. It's finding that niche, and I think diversifying your content a little bit to just say, this is a different side of me. This is, beyond the shooting, beyond the band, and beyond everything else,
Right. Yeah.
And going from there. Now, I have to ask this. You go to SHOT Show, you go almost every year. You go to NRA. What brands do you look at from afar and you're kind of like, I really dig what they're doing, but I don't work with them?
Man, I don't know. Like I always, focus on my own sponsors, because I personally, the sponsors that I have, I don't take a sponsor unless I really love their company, love their brand.
We're going to get to that. You're not getting off that easy. But
I know, but I don't.
What do you look, when you walk around and you kind of like, I mean, look, SIG is an obvious one, right? We all look at them and Tom and what they've done there, and we're kind of like, geez, we really dig what they're doing. Geez, that's nice, coming out with the cross. So you start there, right? I mean, do you look at any and you're like, I dig what they're doing. They could go somewhere. That could be something.
It's interesting going to those shows because there's always so many like new companies.
Yeah,
I feel like, and like they're gonna be the next great thing. But then maybe you come back a couple of years later and they're not there. So I always wonder, kind of like, where did that go wrong? Like, what did they not do, or did they just not have the funds? Did they just decide, we don't want to do this? I can't even think of specific names. Like, but there are all these smaller companies that I feel like have really great ideas, but then maybe sometimes they just can't like follow through.
I think they don't diversify enough, and they try to just, solve a problem that doesn't exist, or the problem exists. And it's such a small problem. Like, the guy who makes, you know what I mean? Like a shell holder that's like really unique, or a grip, and they never evolve,
Right. Right.
But like I'll give you an example. Like I look at like a brand like Remington, right? And I love what they've done with like the Marlin custom shop, because I love lever action and stuff like that. And I like, I look at them and, I know some of the people involved now, so I don't look at them from afar. It's hard for me to find a brand. I don't really know anybody per se, but I look at them and I'm like, geez, I dig what they're doing. I'm like, that's cool stuff. And that's an awesome direction to go in. And wow, like I just kind of like, that's kind of cool. I thought, what SIG did this year with the cross rifle and, having the pergola set up and the outdoor theme, I thought that was really cool. I was like, that's awesome. I've always kind of admired, London Bridge Tactical and some of the things they've been able to do. Matt Bach, Sean Matson, who's over there, who owns Strike Force Energy. There's certain brands that I've always looked at and I'm like, geez, I dig what they're doing, what they're about. And I think that's kind of what SHOT Show does. It makes you kind of have that aha moment, right? You kind of look around and you're like, I like that stuff. Are there any that you look at and you're like, oh man, I wish they would just figure it out. What a disaster. Or like, I guess disaster is a bad word because I know you're going to play it straight, but do you ever look at any and you're like, I wish they would just figure it out. That is such a great brand.
Yeah. I mean, I even think some of the like bigger, well-known, like very established companies, I think sometimes they fail in ways just like, they already have such a great base and like such a great following and foundation, but then like the people they choose to represent them were not good choices, or the things they make just
fall
aren't
flat.
Good. Yeah, like I feel like most of the big companies, things like that happen to them, and like with creating a new handgun or whatever, I guess it would be hard to create something that's super incredible because they have to make them in such a mass quantity. But still, I feel like maybe they could do a little bit better with that.
Yeah, the hardest part is always the magazine because people don't realize most guns are designed around the feeding system. It's so that's the big hurdle. But I think like what Springfield did with the Hellcat was a nice, interesting direction, and I know some of the people behind that. I thought that was cool, and I think the one everybody picks on, the easy one to pick on, I think Sean and I spent 20 minutes picking on him, was Browning. Browning's an easy one to pick on. Like you almost look at their booth, Cheyenne, and you don't know what they're doing. And they're such a cornerstone company. And even Jerry, picked on them a little bit. He's like, when I think of them, I think of the 1911. It's such an iconic brand. And to be seeing them put their logo on like water bottles, and like I look at their booth and I'm like, what is going on? Like there's
always a lot happening. Yeah, it's very unorganized.
It's so there's so much brand confusion. I'm like, are you selling clothes? Do you sell shotguns? Are you selling ammo? What is going on here? Like they're across from SIG, and there's such a a split in. It's almost like I'm like, what are you guys doing? And there's nobody in there because it's like the least welcoming booth, and you're almost like, will you guys just figure it out because you're such an iconic brand? But there's
like they're already established, but then they just kind of lose it.
And maybe they need you. That's it. And you're right. It's about making the right choices. And Dom Rosso said this to me, and it stuck with me. It's about choosing the right brands that listen. And you can only work with brands that listen, because at the end of the day, you want to be almost an advisor to the brands. Like I know a lot of you guys, you, Colby, Trenton, all work with Volquestrian Arms, and I've heard many times, they're great listeners. They listen to the feedback from you guys. They listen to Volquartsen, rather, sorry, and they listen to to you guys' feedback, and that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, I really love it when a brand asks like what I think they could do better, and I mean sometimes I have ideas, sometimes I don't, but I think that's cool when they want to always try to learn new things and try to do things better. I think that's really important, kind of like you say, thinking outside the box, not just sticking to the one thing they've done their entire existence and trying to make that work, because things change and they need to as well.
Yeah, I look, the two brands that stick out to me that I'm like, damn, I wish they would just get it right is Browning and Kimber for sure. I've always been two that I'm like, damn, can't you guys just figure it out? We don't need another Pearly Grip 1911. Like, come on, just get it right, get the right people around it, and get the right marketing, and you guys will crush it. But I think we all walk around those shows a little bit like, what are we going to see next? Like, what's behind door number 2? Like, what are we going to see next? Because you're right, everybody pops up. But I think that'll fade now with a lot of. Is the market's obviously seeing unprecedented growth right now. You can't get a box of ammo. You can't get anything right now. So it's going to come down to, Cheyenne, what companies do now with the money that they have coming in. It's about making the right choices. It's about strategically positioning themselves. Because right now they're all making their year. I know you're on the phones. I'm on the phones with them. They're making their year. in 2 months.
Yeah.
They're making their entire year. They're going to spend the rest of the year scrambling, and it's going to come down to the FFLs and the manufacturers putting this money that comes into the industry into the right places and making sure. And I think this will continue till the end of the year. I think based on what I'm hearing, I think there'll be a run on this into the elections and into the end of the year. And I think that's great. I think it's awesome, but it's going to be about now converting all of these people coming in to making them clients and not customers, and making them indoctrinated into. And one of the failures, and one of my good friends is the number 2 guy there. I said it today on LinkedIn. I said, where is the NRA and NSSF and all this? Where are they? I'm like, why isn't the NRA offering everything online at this point? Remote teaching, everything for all these new people coming in. I'm like, where are they? And I'm going to say it. I know you stay tight-lipped on a lot of this stuff, but for the young shooters out there, everyone, like, where are they in all this?
Yeah, that is a good point. I tried to stay on my social media, like, I tried to not be controversial. Yeah, I try to be neutral. But no, I mean, a lot needs to be said. A lot needs to be done. Even just people, other creators that I know and other competitive shooters, I do think we could all do more. But I don't think it's not being done.
Yeah, I think at this point, Cheyenne, I don't think this is controversial. It's a legitimate question.
Right.
Where are you? Like, why isn't there right now online streaming, at least Pistol 101 on the NRA's website, education? Why aren't they offering, why haven't they come out and said, we're going to offer a free online pistol training right now? Everybody go in, sign up. Like, where are they?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I don't mean that as a dig to them. Who's in charge over there?
Yeah.
And that's a legit. I would ask Jason. We met that right now. His number's in my phone. I've texted him. I'm like, where are you guys? And listen, we all have love for the organization. Nobody's saying anything bad, but you get time and you have a limited window right now. Why aren't you taking advantage of it? And the NSSF has a golden opportunity. Where are you in this? Why aren't you offering, hey, come sign up right now and learn how to use the pistol you just bought, or at least take a 20-question questionnaire on why you purchased the one you purchased. Get feedback, get data right now.
Yep.
Everybody's sitting at home. You go to their websites and they're not doing anything to harness that. That's a failure, Cheyenne. That's a huge failure.
It is.
I mean, it's one thing to put the onus on you and other shooters out there, but I put it back on other things. You go to the NSSF website right now, and they literally have very limited content, very limited stuff to support people through this time. And you have a lot of FFL owners that have money coming in. They need to make the right choices. Like, they should be telling people where ammo's available, where people can source stuff. There's just not enough guidance.
Right.
It's troubling to me, and I know you don't like to get controversial, but I ask you, you're going to inherit all this.
I know.
So,
I think about that a lot. Like, everything that's been happening, just every day that goes by, new things are changing and things are happening. And I think about, like, my future, like, what's going to happen? Like, is there going to be a government? Like, is everything going to fall apart? What's going to happen? Do I want to have kids? I don't know. I'll have to wait and see, how the world is in 10 years. I don't know what's going to be happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've been critical of the NSSF only because even at SHOT Show, they're offering Facebook, how to advertise your company on Facebook. I'm like, Facebook? I'm like, where's TikTok? Where's, you know what I mean? I'm like, what are you guys doing? And I've been critical of those different entities. And I only put it back on you because people like Julie that you brought up that have been mentors to you, people like Di Mueller, they've gotten outspoken and gotten active about it, and they've resigned from key positions because of it.
Right. I do. Yeah, that's a good point. Like NRA, NSSF, I do feel like maybe they need younger people getting in there. I'm not sure. Like, maybe they don't know how to use, like, how to do TikTok or how to do kind of like the cutting edge things. So they always just fall back.
I just think they don't even know it exists. I have to believe that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, that I can sleep at night thinking that, right?
Right.
But like you go to even the NRA's website, and right now it says, see Wayne LaPierre speak at CPAC. Like, who wants to see that right now?
Oh, Yeah.
You know, like where is your resources? Why doesn't it say, why isn't there a big splash page that says new gun owner, sign up now and take an online class?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you know, my mouth's at the floor because I'm like, how are you missing this?
Right.
So, you know, that's kind of one of my things. It's like we complain that we don't have enough people in the industry, or we don't have enough influx, or we don't have enough new blood. You're never going to have more new blood than now. In my lifetime, I definitely won't see a run like this again. I mean, I doubt it because we can't meet capacity now.
Right.
How are we going to meet it later? But I think of the small FFL owners that I talk to. Like I talked to one guy in New Jersey. He's delivering ammo to people, driving around in his car, you know, trying to put it all together. And I just look at that disconnect. You know, you're going to inherit all this, and that's why I bring it up. This is going to be
it's a mess.
Yeah, it's going to be your cross to bear. It's you're going to have to carry this and figure this out. I mean, do you have a plan?
I mean, you can always have, I guess, rough plans, but again, like things change and like weird things happen every single day that I'm just like, we're just going to let them get away with this. Like, you know, things in the government, things like that. I'm just like, wow. Okay. And I feel like, yeah, like you said, we're going to be kind of left with this mess. Hopefully we'll be able to sort it out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, but I definitely, you know, would like to see, you know, on some level, some of the younger blood, you, Colby, you know, some of the different folks out there get a little vocal. You know, you don't have to make waves. I know you guys are still coming into your own and nobody wants to make big waves, but it would go a long way, even if it's just like, hey, you know, why aren't we doing this? You know,
right?
And if anything, it's an email gathering tool. If anything, it's a resource, right? Like, why aren't we doing this? And that's kind of where I stand on it. You know, it's what are we doing to capture this right now, and how are we gathering the data of who's coming into our space now, and how do we evolve? And I've said for a long time, and I look at you as a social media guru, the industry just as a whole, it needs to become more of an action sport, and it needs to start to fall under, you know, some of the, like I look at brands like Red Bull and Monster for influence in our industry. It needs to start to go more into that space. And I was criticized heavily always for bringing fitness into it, bringing action sports into it. But I'm trying to explain to them, hello guys, those are spaces we need to be in because that's how we take this mainstream. What do you think? What do you think the access is? What's the bridge?
No, I agree with you. Like getting more like mainstream, groups, I guess, like the beauty industry. That's not like real. You can't really relate. I mean, there probably is a way, but things that more like the general population is interested in, there has to be a way to cross these things over, or else we're always just going to be kind of in our little bubble. Not very big, which will never grow that much. Yeah. So yeah, no, we definitely need to like cross over in certain ways to grow it one.
Yeah, I think we've crossed over, at least ascended past, you know, the early 2000s. It was still kind of the dusty buckle and boot guys, you know, 1911s. But I think it's evolved. It's gotten a little more rock and roll. But I think it still has to take that major leap. And the only way it's gonna is when a lot of I call it like uniting the clans. A lot of the infighting needs to stop, and a lot of the baloney, and it just needs to push forward. Like I brought this up to somebody. I said, I look at sports like the UFC. Back in 96, when the UFC launched, it was like you couldn't even televise a fight. You couldn't go to one. It was banned in like 48 states. Over time, it slowly crept out into the mainstream, and a lot of that was due to, you know, Joe Rogan humanizing it by having a lot of guests on, having people talk. I feel one of our biggest failures in the industry has been we make it all about the gun, and we make it all about the photo. It's not all about the fight, and it's not all about a still photo. It's about the passion, the rise, the Rocky story. And it's the same in our industry. Everybody is trying to piece it all together and make a living. I said this in the beginning of our conversation. If we were playing baseball, you'd be a multimillionaire. You'd be a first round draft pick. We need to create that in our sport and in our genre, and we need to ascend now. And the only way to do that is if we all come together as a group and we be inclusive and not exclusive, and we encourage people. And, you know, Sean Burrows brought this up. He goes, people just need to remember where they started. And that's the mistake a lot of people make is they, somebody who posts a picture holding a gun, we're so quick to be like, your finger's in the wrong place. You're doing it wrong. Well, how's somebody going to react to that?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, people will be like, we need more people involved in the industry, blah, blah, blah. But then they criticize every new person that tries to come in. And so it just defeats the purpose.
Oh, and I know companies that are like that.
Yeah.
I know full companies that I'm like, do you even hear yourself? Like, I had one guy one time say to me, and he's a CEO of a company, he goes, yeah, but I only want to have like legit people. I'm like, legit? Like, what does that mean? Legit? Like, what does that mean?
Who's to say who is legit,
I'm like, what does that even mean?
What is the scale? Yeah, what is the scale for measuring who's legit?
Yeah, or that dude doesn't have enough of a background. What the hell does that mean? I still haven't figured that out. I'm to this day, I'm lost on it. I'm like, I'm like, do you guys know what sport you're in and what genre you're in? I'm like, one of some of the best shooters in the world have as thin a background as you'll ever look at in terms of whether it's military or law enforcement or whatever it is. I'm like, and they teach them now. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, what you're saying. It's hard. I just wish the industry would grow up, and I hope in your time in it does, and I hope you become one of those sounding boards and use your platform to help that. And the questions I ask aren't meant to be controversial to everybody listening to Cheyenne, because I know she plays it straight. I know how you are, and it's meant to just create a dialogue. I just think some people need to have these conversations, and none of it is meant, look, people can hate me all they want. I just, I think you have to have the talk. And if you're not going to grow and we're going to stay in the weeds, then, great, but we're not going to evolve, and we're not going to get more money into the sport. We're not going to get more money into the genre. And now's as good a time as any because people are buying everything. Have you been in any gun stores lately?
No, I haven't, but just watching online, I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
There's not much left.
Now, I ask everybody this. How do you deal with social media in terms of, I ask you get your share of creepers and weirdos at the shows, and I'm sure you get them in your social media. How do you deal with it?
You know what? To me, those people kind of just make me laugh. And if they go too far and cross the line, then I can always block them. So it doesn't really bother me.
Do you get any at the shows? Because Lena said she has these weird people that are after her feet. Do you get any full blown? Do you get any weirdos at the shows?
I mean, there's always kind of like this. Yeah, I mean, there's been some like creepy guys who show up. And they
you're like, where's your kid?
Yeah, like they want a picture, especially, and this is weird because at this, like, I haven't been to a show in a while because I've been so busy with school, but probably the last one I went to, I was still under 18, and they're like, oh, can I get a picture with you? But then they end up like touching my butt or something. Oh, and it's just kind of interesting. I'm like, oh, okay. And like you can't do anything about it, but it's just, like, it still just kind of makes me laugh that people think, like,
oh my God,
that's okay, or like that I don't know they're being weird.
The two biggest things I hear, or the feedback I get from guests is used clothes, and so for some reason people want used clothes. And I said this to Kendall Jones, and I said this to a couple other people. The smartest woman is going to be the woman that actually creates a menu to buy used clothes and puts it online and donates the money to charity. Says like, look, you want my used socks? You want my, it's $20 and it goes to like, St. Jude's or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, they'll break the internet. I said, because the amount of weirdos that I can't get anything from my used underwear. I don't understand. But it's true. Like, Lena was explaining to me, there's this thing called Wiki Feet when I had her on, and she's on a Wiki Feet website, and people for some reason are about her feet. And I said, that's interesting. I've not heard of Wiki Feet, but I think that it just comes with the territory being a woman in the industry. You attract these creepers, right? And Michelle Viscuzzi is a legend. She's been dealing with it for years. She's makes me laugh because there's always a new one, and Michael and I will be talking or whatever, her husband. And he'll be like, you'll never believe this one, and I'm like, try me. So I think it was Ashley Ruark said she gets smellers, people that want to like smeller. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So there's all kinds of unique stories
Oh.
I've heard on the show.
Yeah, no, one time a guy came up to me at a booth and he's like, "Oh, you smell just like I thought you would." I'm like,
oh God.
What?
Now, has your dad ever freaked out?
No, he's not usually, like, he tries to just stand back. Like, I mean, he's around, but, like, you know, he would just try and, like, kind of let me have my own space. Like, he's there if something really bad happened, but no. I mean, we just try to laugh it off, you know,
You
and
have to.
yeah, that's all you can do.
You have to. But yeah, you have to. You got to be a little careful, and you know the Purell doesn't sanitize enough, right?
No. Yeah.
But you know, it's part of the game. When you put yourself out there, you're gonna have that type of stuff happen, and you have to expect it. But in public, it does. You know, you know, I go through it with Tony. So when I walk around with Real World Tactical, Tony and I, you know, I'm always with a crowd. It's you get stopped every 5 minutes and take a picture, whatever. It's, you know, it's great. But I couldn't imagine being a female. I say it all the time to the guests. I couldn't imagine being a female. Like, it's got to be like, I don't even know how you guys even smile after a while. It's just like, it blows my mind. Sometimes I'm just like, you know, you got to be kidding me. You know, I think in all of our years being friends, I don't think we've taken a picture. I'd have to dig. I don't, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think at one time I was at my photographer video guy, John. He loved what you're doing online, and he's married, but John's like, everybody, he loves everybody. So he's like, I got to take a picture with her, you know, like, I think that was the only time, but you know, it's crazy what you guys deal with and some of the people that come out of the woodwork, and they're great people. I mean, they're great fans, great supporters of the industry, but sometimes I think they have that social awkwardness if they don't know what to say, and they say something and you're just kind of like, what? Like, are you kidding me? Like, huh?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're fast blocking people as fast as humanly possible on social media, but not easy to deal with. So I don't envy you for that. So, you know, good luck with it. But what's the best way for everybody to reach you, and the best point of contact, and the best way to slide into your DM effectively if they have a legitimate question?
So I would say like, you can always email me. It's CheyenneDaltonShoots@gmail.com. You can DM me on Instagram, but I can't guarantee I'll see it because it might go into the request box, and I don't always go through it. I know I should, but so probably if you have a legit like inquiry or question or something like that, definitely email me would be the best way to get in contact.
Yeah, and I want to ask one final question. When you're choosing the brands you work with, because you have a huge list on your website, what's the number one thing you look for?
You know, I just look for a brand who is not going to push me to do something that's not within my own brand. I want something that's going to like complement, I guess, what I already do. And the sponsors that I have today, they have stuck with me for several years. I'm not the kind of person that just like, if I get an opportunity to have a sponsorship, I take it. And then if another company comes along, I jump ship and hop on with them. Like, I'm looking for, I guess, kind of like long-term relationships with them. I want something, you know, it's going to last, not just taking their stuff and then when someone else offers something, going with them. I want to stick with them for the long haul. Because I think that shows that, like, I really do I work for them because I really believe in their products and their brands and what they stand for. So,
yeah, I think that's good advice for sure. And you know, thinking back, I think we've known each other for at least 5 or 6 years now, plus. I love what you're doing. I think it's great.
Thank you.
And, you know, you're always welcome on this platform. And I know it took us a little while to pull this together. And because of Corona, it just had to be done this way. But I keep doing what you're doing. And I think you're going to crush it. And where it goes from here for you is going to be, you know, the sky's the limit in terms of what you can do. And I think, you know, if you just keep making the choices you're making and develop your circle the right way and get the right people around you, I think it's going to be unlimited, the potential that you could you could have. So, that's the
Thank
only
you so
thing
much.
I can say. Yeah. And, I know you have a great circle and a great family around you that's known by everybody in the industry. So, just keep doing it. And, by all means, this platform is yours whenever you want it. And I'd love to have you back on in the future as things shape up
Awesome.
and we dig out of this crazy. So, I look forward to it, and I hope, everything hits. And, I'd ask you where everyone can see you next, but we don't know when the next thing's going to be. And so that's going to be the challenge. So, I thank you. And I want to thank, all your sponsors. Thank everybody. Go over to Cheyenne's website. I'll put the link down below and all her stuff. And special thanks again to Savage Cerakote in New Jersey. He's running around delivering ammo today. Big thanks to Derek. He was on earlier. Go check him out. And a mutual great sponsor and company of Cheyenne's and I who helps out is Vortex. Go check out Vortex. Love what they're doing. And give them a follow. Go see this, what they're up to. And if you guys out there listening, go ahead, leave a comment, leave a review. Appreciate it. It goes a long way. And I'll put all Cheyenne's links down below. All right.